My phone lit up with a notification that nearly made my heart stop. After 12 years of silence, Tracy, my ex-wife, had messaged me. The woman who destroyed our 28-year relationship by sleeping with her coworker was suddenly reaching out. I stared at her name on my screen, instantly transported back to that rainy Tuesday, when I discovered the texts that shattered my world. What could she possibly want? After all this time, my life was finally good again. I had dates lined up and family who loved me. Before I continue this wild story about my ex-wife crawling back, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button. Trust me, you will want to hear how I handled this unexpected blast from the past. I first met Tracy during junior year of high school. She was the new transfer student with bright eyes and a laugh that could light up a room. We bumped into each other in the library, both reaching for the same dog-eared copy of Catcher in the Rye. That accidental touch sparked something neither of us expected. Within weeks, we were inseparable. I still remember our first date at a local diner, where we shared a milkshake and talked until the owner politely kicked us out at closing time. Our young love blossomed through college. While other couples broke up when attending different universities, we made it work with long phone calls and weekend visits. Every challenge seemed to strengthen our bond, rather than weaken it. By graduation, I knew she was the one. I proposed on a crisp autumn evening under the oak tree where we first kissed. Her tearful yes made me feel like the luckiest man alive. We married in a small ceremony when I was 22. Nothing fancy, just close friends and family at my parents' backyard. Tracy wore a simple white dress she found at a vintage shop, and I wore my only suit. We wrote our own vows, promising to stand by each other through whatever life threw our way. Everyone said we were too young, that we should wait. We ignored them all, convinced our love was strong enough to withstand anything. The early years were tough financially, but rich in happiness. We lived in a tiny one-bedroom apartment, slept on a mattress, on the floor, and ate ramen more often than not. I worked entry-level at a tech company, while Tracy waited tables and finished her marketing degree. Every small victory was celebrated together. The day we bought our proper bed frame, the night we splurged on real wine instead of boxed. We were building something together brick by brick. After 5 years of saving every penny, we finally had enough for a down payment on a small house in the suburbs. It needed work, but it was ours. Weekends were spent painting walls, fixing leaky faucets, and planting a garden. I still remember how proud Tracy looked. The first night we spent there, sitting on our second-hand couch, surrounded by unpacked boxes, dreaming about our future. My career at the tech company was taking off. Long hours of coding and problem-solving paid off when I was promoted to lead developer. Tracy had graduated by then and landed an entry-level position at an advertising agency downtown. We were climbing our respective career ladders, supporting each other every step of the way. We decided against having children, instead focusing on our careers and enjoying the freedom to travel and experience life together. After 15 years of marriage, the first hairline cracks began to appear. I was working 60-hour weeks trying to secure another promotion. Tracy was traveling more for work, attending weekend conferences and client meetings. When we were home together, we were often too exhausted for meaningful conversation. Date nights became rare, then non-existent. Sex went from passionate to routine to occasional. I noticed Tracy becoming more distant, constantly on her phone, smiling at private jokes I was not privy to. When I asked about it, she would say it was work stuff, nothing important. I believed her because I wanted to, because the alternative was too painful to consider. I tried to reignite our spark by planning a surprise weekend getaway for our anniversary. She seemed enthusiastic, but canceled last minute for an emergency client meeting. The truth revealed itself on an ordinary Thursday evening. Tracy had left her phone on the kitchen counter while showering. A notification popped up from someone named James, with a heart emoji. Something compelled me to look. The message read, "Cannot wait to feel you against me tomorrow." Miss your taste already. My world collapsed in an instant. 23 years of trust evaporated as I scrolled through months of explicit messages between my wife and her coworker. I did not confront her immediately. Instead, I hired a private investigator who confirmed my worst fears. Tracy and James had been having an affair for 8 months. The PI provided photos of them entering a hotel, holding hands in a park across town, kissing in his car. Each image was a dagger to my heart. I scheduled a dinner at La Maison, the expensive French restaurant we reserved for special occasions. There, surrounded by couples celebrating anniversaries and engagements, I slid the envelope of photos across the table. Her face drained of color as she looked through them. I expected denial, excuses, tears. Instead, she simply said, "I am sorry you found out this way. I love him, Scott." The clinical detachment in her voice hurt more than rage would have. She admitted the affair had been going on for 8 months. James was divorced, ambitious, exciting. Everything I no longer was in her eyes. She had been planning to ask for a divorce after the holidays. My discovery simply accelerated her timeline. Tracy filed for divorce the following week. She hired Martin Reynolds, the most aggressive divorce attorney in the state. I was served papers at work. A humiliation that left me shaking with rage and shame. The legal battle that followed was brutal. Tracy claimed she deserved half of everything, including my company stock options, that had vested before we even met. She wanted the house, the retirement accounts, even my great-grandmother's antique watch I had inherited. The financial toll was devastating. Legal fees quickly depleted our savings account. I had to sell investments at a loss to keep paying my attorney. The judge, a golf buddy of Martin Reynolds, seemed to favor Tracy at every turn. In the end, she got the house I had renovated with my own hands. 60% of our retirement savings and a portion of my future earnings. I was left with debt and a small apartment on the wrong side of town. The emotional cost was even higher. Friends we had known for decades chose sides. Most stood with Tracy, believing her story, that I had been emotionally absent, forcing her to seek comfort elsewhere. My own brother initially questioned what I had done to push her away. The betrayal extended far beyond my marriage into every aspect of my life. People I had trusted for years suddenly viewed me with suspicion or pity. Depression hit me like a physical weight. Mornings became a struggle to get out of bed. Work, once my passion, became a place I merely existed. My performance slipped. Projects I would have completed in days took weeks. My boss, Jim, called me into his office to say that while he sympathized with my situation, the company needed the old Scott back. I was given a performance improvement plan. A professional courtesy, step away from termination. I started drinking to numb the pain. At first, just a few beers after work. Then a bottle of whiskey every few days. Eventually, I was starting my mornings with a shot just to steady my hands. Alcohol became both my escape and my prison. I stopped returning calls from the few friends who had remained loyal. Family gatherings were avoided with flimsy excuses. I was spiraling, but too lost in my pain to recognize it. One Friday night, after nearly a full bottle of Jack Daniels, I called my younger sister Sarah at 2 a.m. I do not remember what I said, but it frightened her enough that she drove 3 hours to check on me. She used her emergency key to enter my apartment and found me passed out among empty bottles, dirty dishes, and unwashed clothes. The look of horror on her face, when I finally came to, is something I will never forget. Sarah stayed the weekend cleaning my apartment and forcing me to shower and eat. On Sunday morning, she sat me down for the most painful conversation of my life. She did not mince words. "You are throwing your life away over a woman who did not deserve you in the first place. Tracy has moved on with James. They are living in your house, spending your money while you slowly kill yourself. Is that the legacy you want? Is that how you want your story to end?" Her words cut through the fog of self-pity that had enveloped me. For the first time since the divorce, I felt something besides pain and rage. Shame. Shame that I had allowed one person to define my worth. Shame that I was wasting the life I had fought so hard to build. Before Sarah left, she made me promise two things: to attend an AA meeting and to call my doctor about the depression. Both calls were made before her car left the parking lot. The recovery was not immediate or easy. The first AA meeting was terrifying, sitting in a circle of strangers admitting I had lost control. But there was also unexpected comfort in being among people who understood rock bottom. My doctor prescribed antidepressants and referred me to a therapist specializing in divorce trauma. Each step was small, but together they formed a path forward. I also joined a support group for divorced men. There I met guys who had survived similar or worse situations. Paul, whose wife left him for his best friend. Miguel, who discovered his wife had a second family in another state. Their stories helped me understand I was not alone, that my pain was not unique, and most importantly, that survival was possible. Physical fitness became my new outlet for pain. I joined a gym and started with basic workouts, barely able to run a mile or lift the lightest weights. But day by day, my body grew stronger. The discipline of regular exercise gave structure to my previously chaotic life. The endorphins provided natural relief from depression. Within 6 months, I had lost 30 pounds and gained visible muscle definition. My reflection was starting to match my internal transformation. At work, I threw myself into a critical project that others had deemed impossible. 14-hour days, weekends at the office, constant problem solving. The project was delivered on time and under budget, earning praise from senior management. Jim, who had been ready to fire me months earlier, personally delivered the news of my promotion to senior developer. The salary increase allowed me to finally start rebuilding my financial security. When the lease on my apartment ended, I made a bold decision. Instead of renewing, I accepted a transfer to our Seattle office, a new city, 3,000 miles from the wreckage of my marriage. The day I drove away, watching my old life disappear in the rearview mirror, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time in 2 years, I allowed myself to feel hope. Seattle brought rain, coffee, and unexpected rebirth. The city vibrated with energy that matched my renewed sense of purpose. My position as senior developer came with increased responsibility and respect. I put in the hours, impressed the right people, and within 18 months was promoted to technical director. The financial wounds of the divorce began to heal as my savings grew and investments matured. I purchased a modern condo overlooking Puget Sound. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased stunning sunsets and cargo ships gliding across the water. It was nothing like the suburban house I had shared with Tracy, and that was precisely the point. Every piece of furniture, every painting on the wall was chosen by me, for me. The space became a physical manifestation of my independence and new identity. Family relationships neglected during my marriage and damaged during my downward spiral were carefully rebuilt. I flew my parents out for a week-long visit, showing them my new life with pride. Regular video calls with Sarah and her children became Sunday traditions. I never missed a birthday or graduation, sending thoughtful gifts and making appearances whenever possible. My nieces and nephews no longer saw me as the sad uncle, but as the cool one who lived in Seattle and sent the best Christmas presents. Dating was intimidating at first. So many unwritten rules had changed during my 28-year relationship with Tracy. Dating apps were completely foreign territory. My first attempts were awkward disasters, but like everything else in my recovery practice, led to improvement. I learned to be honest about my past without letting it dominate conversations. Women seemed to appreciate my authenticity and the emotional intelligence hard-won through therapy. I dated casually, enjoying the company of intelligent, accomplished women without rushing toward commitment. Lisa, a pediatric surgeon with a wicked sense of humor. Danielle, an environmental lawyer who took me hiking through gorgeous Washington trails. Jennifer, a literature professor who rekindled my love of classic novels. Each relationship taught me something about myself and helped heal different aspects of my past wounds. Personal growth extended beyond career and relationships. I volunteered at a local coding boot camp, mentoring students transitioning into tech careers. Teaching others reinforced my own knowledge while providing the satisfaction of making tangible differences in lives. The gratitude of students landing their first jobs brought joy I had forgotten existed. Travel, once limited by Tracy's preferences, and our financial constraints, became a personal passion. I explored Thailand's temples and street markets, hiked the rugged coast of Ireland in misty rain, ate my way through Italy, savoring pasta dishes and wines in tiny village restaurants. Each trip expanded my worldview and reinforced how small my previous life had been. Music, long relegated to background noise, became central to my new life. I impulsively purchased a guitar after passing a music store one rainy afternoon. YouTube tutorials and weekly lessons with a patient teacher named Ryan gradually transformed painful fingertips and awkward strumming into recognizable songs. When Ryan invited me to join his casual band that played monthly at a local pub, I surprised myself by accepting. Standing on that small stage for the first time, nervously playing rhythm guitar to a cover of Tom Petty's Free Fallin', I experienced a confidence that had nothing to do with my professional success or dating life. It was pure joy, the kind that comes from creating something simply for the pleasure of creation. The moderate applause from the half-interested crowd felt better than any corporate award I had ever received. Through a mutual friend in the band, I met Amanda. She came to a show one night, and I noticed her genuine enthusiasm for our admittedly amateur performance. After we finished playing, Ryan introduced us. She had warm brown eyes that crinkled when she smiled, and a laugh that made me want to hear it again. We talked until the bar closed, discovering shared loves of spicy food, bad science fiction movies, and early morning hikes. Our first date was breakfast at a diner, followed by a trek up a nearby mountain. Conversation flowed naturally without the awkward pauses that had characterized so many of my post-divorce dates. She was recently divorced herself and understood the caution with which I approached relationships. Neither of us was in a rush. We enjoyed simple pleasures, cooking dinner together, attending local concerts, walking her golden retriever along the waterfront. What struck me most about Amanda was how different the relationship felt from my time with Tracy. There was no desperate clinging, no sense that my worth depended on her approval. We were two complete people choosing to spend time together, rather than two halves seeking completion. I kept emotional distance, not from fear, but from a healthy sense of self-preservation. If it evolved into something deeper, wonderful. If not, I would still be okay. On my 46th birthday, exactly 12 years after the divorce was finalized, I received a text message that made my blood run cold. Tracy. Her name on my phone screen was a ghost from another lifetime. The message was brief. Happy birthday, Scott. I have been thinking about you. Would love to catch up sometime, if you are willing. The past is the past, right? My hands shook slightly as old emotions threatened to surface. I showed the message to my friend Michael over birthday beers that evening. His advice was blunt. Delete it and move on. You owe her nothing. Part of me knew he was right, but another part was curious. What could she possibly want after all this time? Had she tracked me across the country just to wish me happy birthday? It seemed unlikely. I decided not to respond immediately, giving myself time to process this unexpected intrusion from the past. 2 more messages arrived over the next week. The first asking if I had received her previous text. The second, longer and more emotional. I know I have no right to contact you after everything, but life has a way of teaching hard lessons. I really need to talk to you. Please. Just once. Against the advice of friends and my own better judgment, I agreed to meet her when she said she would be in Seattle for a conference the following month. Simple curiosity overcame caution. We arranged to meet at a neutral coffee shop downtown, far from my neighborhood. I arrived early, claiming a corner table that allowed me to watch the door. When Tracy walked in, I almost did not recognize her. The confident, stylish woman I had married was gone. In her place stood someone who looked 10 years older than her actual age. Deep lines surrounded her eyes. Her clothes hung loosely on a frame that had grown too thin, and her once vibrant hair was dull and streaked with gray. Her eyes widened with similar surprise as she assessed me. "Your profile picture does not do you justice," she said as she sat down. "You look great, Scott. Healthy. I am glad." There was an uncomfortable silence as the barista delivered our drinks. I had opted for black coffee, while Tracy had ordered some complicated concoction that would have been her usual order a decade ago. She fidgeted with her cup, seemingly unsure how to begin. Finally, she took a deep breath. "I guess I should start with the obvious. I am sorry. So incredibly sorry for the pain I caused you." The words I had once desperately wanted to hear now felt hollow, arriving years too late. I nodded without commenting, waiting for her to continue. Tracy's story unfolded like a cautionary tale. She and James had married 6 months after our divorce was finalized. The passion that had seemed worth destroying our marriage burned out within 2 years. James, it turned out, was as unfaithful to her as she had been to me. She discovered his affairs not once, but 3 times before finally ending the marriage. The divorce left her financially strained. The housing market had crashed, and they sold our old house at a significant loss. Her advertising career had stalled after a project failure that James, as her supervisor, had blamed entirely on her. She had been bouncing between jobs ever since, never regaining her former success or salary. Most of her friends had distanced themselves after her second divorce, tired of the drama and negativity. I will not pretend I did not feel a flicker of satisfaction at her downfall. The universe had delivered a justice I never could have orchestrated. But the feeling was fleeting, replaced by a strange emptiness. Her unhappiness did nothing to restore the years I had lost to grief and recovery. Tracy reached across the table, her fingers stopping just short of mine. "I have thought about you every day," she said softly, "about what we had, what I threw away. No relationship since has ever come close to what we built together. I was too young, too stupid, to appreciate it." She pulled a small velvet pouch from her purse and placed it between us. Inside was her wedding ring, the one I had saved for 3 years to buy her. "I made the biggest mistake of my life walking away from you," she continued, tears forming. "I know it is crazy, after all this time, but I have never stopped loving you. We had 23 years together, Scott. That has to count for something. Do you think there is any chance, any possibility at all that we could try again? I know it would take time, but I would do anything to earn back your trust. The Tracy I had married would never have been this desperate, this raw." Part of me pitied her, but as I looked into the eyes that had once been my entire world, I felt something unexpected. Nothing. No anger, no love, no hate. Just the calm certainty that this chapter of my life was truly finished. I told her about my life in Seattle, about my promotion to technical director and the team I led, about my condo with its view of the Sound. I mentioned my travels, my guitar playing, my volunteer work. I did not speak of these things to hurt her, but to illustrate how completely I had rebuilt my life from the ashes she had left behind. When I mentioned Amanda, Tracy's face fell. She asked if it was serious. I answered honestly that I did not know yet, but that I was open to the possibility, in a way I had not been with anyone else since our divorce. What I did know, I told her. was that I deserved someone who chose me first, not as a backup plan after everything else had failed. I will always value the good years we had, Tracy. They made me who I am today. And I genuinely hope you find happiness. But that happiness will not be with me. We cannot go back. Too much has happened. Too much has changed. We are different people now. I finished my coffee and stood signaling the end of our conversation. She grabbed my hand as I prepared to leave, her grip surprisingly strong. Please, Scott. I have nothing left. No one. You were the best thing in my life, and I was too blind to see it. I gently removed her fingers and placed the velvet pouch with the ring back in her palm. That is not a good enough reason to rebuild a relationship, I said quietly. You need to find your own happiness before you can share it with someone else. I did. Walking away from that coffee shop, I felt an unexpected lightness. The final threads connecting me to my past had been severed. The ghost that had occasionally haunted quiet moments was exorcised. I had faced my deepest wound and found it completely healed. That evening I called Amanda and asked if she wanted to spend the weekend at a cabin I had spotted on a previous hike. A place with no cell service, just mountains, trees, and quiet. Her immediate yes made me smile. For the first time since my divorce, I was ready to be fully present with someone else, without fear or reservation. Not because Tracy had wanted me back, but because I finally understood my own worth existed independently of anyone else's validation. Sometimes the most profound revenge is not just living well, but discovering that your happiness is no longer connected to the person who once caused you pain. Healing is not about forgetting the past, but about ensuring it no longer controls your future. Have you ever had someone from your past try to return after they realized what they lost? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments below. Do not forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that share button if you know someone who might need to hear this message of hope and self-respect. Thank you for listening, and remember, your worth is not determined by those who fail to recognize it.